Caledonian Elixir. Broadcasting from Glasgow, Scotland, welcome to the Caledonian Elixir. I'm your host, Vincent Lawler, and you can get involved by calling free from the UK on 0738 745 3353. That is 0738 745 3353. The international number is also available on the screen, and you can also come on by clicking the link in the description. Then just enter a name, any name, it's simple. And you can also engage with us by leaving live chats. And whether you agree or disagree, it's free. So call in, click the link, and join the discussion. And we are broadcasting live to multiple platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter X, Rumble. And I think we're also on Twitch. So for all you Twitchers, you can catch us there. And we'll be going up as a podcast on Spotify too. So don't forget to subscribe and follow. Oh, and you can support us by buying me a coffee. So just donate at buymeacoffee.com/Caledonian Elixir. The links are available on YouTube and X. So welcome back, and I hope you're all well. I'm feeling a lot better now as we're in the autumnal months. I always feel better in the colder temperatures. We've only got two seasons in Scotland. It's autumn and August. It's just a wee intermission we get in August where it gets humid and warm. But for the rest of the season, rest of the year, it's like one season. But anyway, if you're finding us for the first time, this show covers everything from politics to the paranormal, told with wit and true grit, uncensored with guests and callers. Now, today on the Elixir, I want to discuss with you the role of occult saturnian symbolism, its influence in shaping ancient religions, especially Semitic religions, and its influence on the mainstream modern culture. And I also want to touch on the subject of hypnotism, because hypnotism plays a very important role in magnetizing us to these symbols. However, I have a couple of guests with us today. The first is Hydro McLean. He's joining us from Canada, and he's got his own channel on YouTube if you want to check him out there. It's a Hydro McLean show.
It's not Nigel McLean, but my nickname's Hydro.
Hydro McLean. Sorry. Anyway, Hydro, without further ado, how you doing, my man?
Good. How you doing, brother?
Not bad. As I said, I'm feeling a little bit better now we're in the colder seasons.
Yeah. I try to run in that, man, and I can't run very long in the heat. I like it when it gets cold. I like to run in the cold.
Yeah, I saw one of the last videos that you had done. You were recording yourself walking around the area you were from. But you were recording yourself walking through a forest or a park.
Oh yeah, that was hot. That was very hot.
That's a nice location. Is that where you live?
It's a park nearby, yeah.
Is that like a national park?
There's a gas company called Irving here. It's an Irving Nature Park.
Yeah, it was a really nice location.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's nice. It's awesome.
So whereabouts in Canada are you joining us from?
New Brunswick.
New Brunswick.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I think I'll start with hypnosis. And I'm fascinated by hypnosis, Hydro. I've got several hypnosis files on my channel that essentially utilize guided meditation with solfeggio frequencies. And I've got a psychology and counselling degree that involves counselling theory and its applications. And I studied a lot of George H. Estabrooks, who was a US military mind control scientist in World War II, responsible for creating a Manchurian candidate, a kind of like a mind controlled assassin. And this was when he was working on Japanese POWs, prisoners of war. And as I said, the reason I think hypnosis is so relevant to this discussion is because it has been utilized in mainstream media or modern world today to magnetize us to these symbols. But there are those who don't
Even
recognize or
even
believe
religion
in
as
religion.
well.
Exactly. Um, and so I want to get into that, but I want to play a file because there are going to be those in the audience who are listening to this thinking it's a bit out there that hypnotism is being used in the media to magnetize us to religions and symbols. So I just want to play this file.
Um, I'm Christy Nicola, born July of 1962, rendering me 32 years of age. I was a subject in radiation as well as mind control and drug experiments performed by a man I knew as Dr. Green. My parents were divorced around 1966, and Donald Richard Ebner, my natural father, was involved with Dr. Green in the experiments. I was a subject from 1966 to 1976. Dr. Green performed radiation experiments on me in 1970, focusing on my neck, throat, and chest, 1972 focusing on my chest and my uterus in 1975. Each time I became dizzy, nauseous, and threw up. All these experiments were performed on me in conjunction with mind control techniques and drugs in Tucson, Arizona. Dr. Green was using me mostly as a mind control subject from 1966 to 1973. His objective was to gain control of my mind and train me to be a spy assassin.
Now, that was the US Congressional Committee on Radiation and Mind Control Experiments in the mid 90s.
That was from the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, Estabrooks, the scientist I was referencing earlier, he used the most vulnerable in our society to do this stuff. It was prisoners suffering from shell shock, back then known as, back known then as shell shock, but now it's known as PTSD. And essentially was using hypnosis to implant post hypnotic suggestions. And as you know, so it kind of works like this. In the hypnotic trance state, the seeds of a new personality are planted. A personality that would be loyal and back then to the allies. But it could be done to you, me, to create a personality that would be loyal to the state, to a religion, or a person. In other words,
How were they giving these drugs to them? Were they willingly taking it?
no, in that case, she was describing in a cut the video short because it's a long video,
Yeah.
but she was injected with drugs and shown a projection, and this image that was on the projection would be repeated over and over while the hypnotist or the scientist would repeat certain phrases. And as you know, she would it would go into her subconscious, the seeds of these images. And I'm not, you know, quite sure she's the perfect example of a mind control assassin because she isn't an assassin, but she is someone who was a victim of these experiments that took place in her
They
case.
tried, but it didn't really work.
Yeah. But,
Yeah.
there's a reason I'm bringing this up because, in other words, this technique induces a form of dissonant identity disorder within the minds of captured prisoners of war, and their conscious minds would have no idea that resting in the shadows and the back of her psyche existed a different personality. And that's the effectiveness of hypnosis. In fact, just like the power of hypnosis as a tool of mind control was discussed in the US Congress, it was recently discussed in the UK Parliament. And a submission by a Dr. McKay to the Women's and Equality Select Committee. They discussed a subcategory of pornography called sissy hypno that utilized erotic imagery and hypnosis to essentially implant suggestions to feminize and transform males. And this was being discussed because they were arguing that it was a reason why a lot of men were suffering from distant identity disorder and choosing to become transgender. So I know I'm sort of digressing into the subject of hypnotism, and I'm going to move on to why I think this is relevant to symbolism and Saturnian symbolism specifically. But have you got anything you'd like to share in terms of your view on?
Do you think that hypnotism, like without drugs, do you think that is the person tricking themselves and they convince them?
Well, you've got auto-suggestion. So through auto-suggestion, we can implant the seeds of certain behaviors that can help us, or, you know,
They would have to be a certain type of person, though, because I don't feel like only certain kinds of people can be hypnotized, especially if there's no drugs involved, right?
I have heard that it's usually something like 1 in 4 1 in 4
Yeah.
or more people. Like the hypnosis files I use, I've got solfeggio sounds.
So when you say symbolism, you mean like logos and products and just symbols of all kinds?
Yeah. I think it was Edward Bernery, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew, who was responsible for working with a lot of advertisement companies in the mid 20th century, utilizing hypnosis for corporations. And
Well, if you open up your mind and you look at things the way that they really are, like if you see like a Dodge truck or a Ford truck or a Chevy or a Toyota or whatever, they're not actually those things. It's just there's a thing that's on it. You've been told what it is, and then you believe what it is. It's just a bunch of metal and parts put together, and people I think people walk around believing all these things, but really they don't actually see what things really are. It almost classifying things and putting classifications on things like that, it kind of puts people into a delusional state. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like when you say you're going to go down to a McDonald's, it's not actually McDonald's, just this is a place, but the arch and everything, and it's the word, and they just believe that it's a real thing, but really it's not. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it doesn't matter where we see that symbol, that arched M, and that little jingle accompanying it. We now associate it with that restaurant chain.
Yeah.
And that's the effectiveness of hypnosis.
It's like the symbol, it'll bring up all these memories and all these beliefs or all these thoughts and perceptions that you have about it, and then you just by one glance at something, you'll have like a whole idea of what it is. It's almost like opening up a folder inside of your brain. It's like if you look at like a Christian cross, and automatically you'll think of churches and Jesus and everything else and Christmas and whatever, right? Just because you look at this thing. But really, nothing really has any meaning. We give it meaning. We give it, you know what I mean?
That's right. 1 second. Tucker, I'm going to bring you on in just 5 minutes. No, you're right, and the reason I'm highlighting that again is just to show how not only is hypnosis utilized by the government and by government agencies, but if it can be used by them, it can be used by religions and cults to magnetize us to symbolism, and that's where I want to shift this over to discussion about the subject of Saturnian symbolism, and its influence is so vast and layered from mythology, astrology to modern culture. And Saturn is seen as a god of order, containment, time, and structure. And just like all gods, symbols are used to represent them. And there are several symbols associated with Saturn.
I got one thing to add, man. Just like for an example, if you have like a ruler, right? You know how like numbers, like we always think of numbers like they're a real thing, but realistically, if you have a ruler, it's just a bunch of equal parts divided up. you could put any scribble, symbol, number, whatever on top of each one of those things, and you could still use it the same way. You could use it without the numbers. It's just equal parts, and you can pick out what equal parts are. You know, like even the letters that we use, the numbers that we use, none of that stuff is, it's like embedded into us as children, you know. But if you can look at all that, if you can look at it for what it really is, then you'll see things more clearly. Like it'll make more sense. Because
in terms of Saturn, right, are there any symbols that come to your mind that you are aware is associated with Saturn?
with what? Sorry,
Saturn, the god Saturn, or the planet Saturn. Are you aware of any symbols or anything associated with this? Because you'll be surprised when I get into it. But right now, are you aware of any symbols associated with?
one thing that's crazy about Saturn is that the shape that shows up in the North Pole. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I don't know, like what exactly are you talking about? In religion or something like that?
Well, right. So there's not a number, like there's several symbols associated with Saturn, symbols that we see all the time in our culture, such as the black cube, the hexagon, and the ring. Now,
Oh, it's kind of like that place where all those people don't they circle around a black black
yeah,
cube?
Mecca, and I'm going to
Yeah,
get
the
into that.
Mecca.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
right, the thing is, like Saturn is very important in terms of in regards to religion as a idol being worshipped. Saturn was the chief god worshipped by the Semites, and it was referred to as El. You know, when I speak of the Semites, you know,
Yeah.
you think of Hebrews as Semites, but back then they were known as Canaan because before Israel existed, you had the land of
Where,
Canaan, and you
where do
had
you
the
think all that stems from? Like, whether if they had telescopes or not, or if aliens came down, or just other beings on this earth went around and they just knew about these things. But why do you think they would be so obsessed about particular planets? Like, what would actually be the benefit or the reasoning behind that? Like,
well,
like
think about it.
Jupiter
See,
makes sense because, you know, I mean, it sucks in all this debris. The moon, I guess you could look at them like they're protectors because they do
yeah,
protect us from getting bombarded from asteroids and comets.
if you looked up at the sky over 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt, you know, you worshipped the sun. You know, these were astral, you know, bodies that were there every night, and so it's
Yeah,
one.
if you logically think about it, though, I mean, we would be nothing without the sun, right? And supposedly for all the physical matter, everything comes from it, and it grows all the food, it does the weather, it just keeps everything together. So if you were to, I don't like the idea of worshiping something because that means that you're bowing down like it's a king. But if you were to, I don't know, look up to something, looking up to the sun, literally and figuratively, it would probably be a good idea because we're screwed without it, and it created everything. So, I mean, it makes sense. But to put up some random godhead that's just kind of made up, you know, there's so many gods that people believe in. That's kind of silly. But the sun is a noble thing to be like, hey, you know what? That created us, and that's keeping everything going.
Right.
It's like a noble thing to.
Especially
I mean, you gotta appreciate the sun.
If you've got a society based around agriculture, you know, the very basis of your society rests on the sun, you know.
And we're so disconnected from it now because it's all industrialized. But at certain times with certain cultures, people were all like, everything was about growing food, and they were so concerned about the seasons and everything, and everything had to be done just, you know. But now, like, we're so disconnected from that because of all the industrial farming. Like, we don't really think of it like that, but it was extremely important to those people, right? Like,
Hydro, you alluded to something about how that image in the North Pole is just crazy. And I was amazed when I learned that there is a hexagon, or to be more accurate, a hexagonal shaped storm at the North Pole of Saturn.
Yeah.
And I've also heard it described as an orthogonal projection. That's when a cube casts a shadow appearing as a 2D hexagon. But I just want to play the actual image of the storm in the North Pole of Saturn, because that blew me away.
Yeah, dude. Let me tell you what I personally think that is. You know when you look at like snowflakes and they're geometrically shaped just like that. It's usually like a hexagonal type thing. I think it just has something to do with magnetism, frequency, electromagnetic energy type stuff. You know what I mean? And maybe it's so strong and the elements are lined up just right. Everything just moves around. I don't know. It's hard to explain because like even scientists are baffled by it, and some people will say like it's an illusion or whatever. But
sorry for interrupting, but do you know what really blows my mind? These mystics and astrologers for centuries have associated the symbol of the hexagon with Saturn, and there is a hexagon-shaped storm in the North Pole of Saturn. How did they know that there was a hexagon?
I thought the same thing.
When
your mind was blown, that's literally what I thought when I first saw it. I was just like, "What the? Are you serious right now?" But I mean, dude, if you look back, even in just in Egypt and many other places, it's a known thing that they did use lenses. Like even if you go on Google right now and you search in, did Egyptians use lenses? 2,000 years ago. I think it says something about like, yes, they are known to use lenses 2,000, 2,500 years ago. I think that's what Google will say. So I mean, honestly, it's not that surprising if they were to make a telescope. It's just in this westernized world, the way that they teach people in schools, they want to brainwash you into thinking that Christopher Columbus was the discoverer of the Americas and Galileo and all these people were the people of the telescopes and whatever. But people had lenses and stuff like that figured. I mean, how else would they?
I heard a guest I had on not too long ago describe what Saturn appeared to her as when she looked through it from a very simple telescope. And it appeared like a U with a orb in the center. And she's describing the U as the U as the ring. But the ring didn't fully ring round the planet. You couldn't see it. Basically because the telescope was so primitive. She described it as the top of the Barad-dûr. And a Lord of the Rings, you've seen the Lord of the Rings film, and in Mount Doom there's a big Barad-dûr with the burning flaming eye of Sauron that looks down on everything. Well, she described it as that, but you've got that kind of U shape with the big eye, but it's like a U shape with a dot in it.
Right.
And because Saturn was called the Lord of the Rings by mystics too, for centuries long before J.R. Tolkien wrote that novel. And
do you know what I mean though? Like, it's not so crazy to think that people, like, everyone wants to think that we're in this linear path from 30, 20, 10,000 years ago, when we went from cavemen to what we are now, and we've never been sophisticated before. But that's complete bullshit. I'm sorry to say it, but
you're a big proponent that there have been other advanced civilizations in the past.
I mean, it's I'm sorry, but you can't make precision stonework like that with just regular stuff. I mean, dude, like these if you're going to know certain things about all the celestial objects, you're going to have enough knowledge to go to the top of a mountain on a clear night and bring something to be able to see. Like with the naked eye, you can only see so much. And if you go way back into old texts and the descriptions and the details that they give about all the planets, how else? There's really only two things. You have to have a telescope, or you would have to have somebody going out there and seeing it. somehow, or visitors.
Yeah, and you've got some interesting videos on YouTube looking into the, the architecture and the buildings, the temples that were erected, constructed by these civilizations, and these
Yeah,
and the
man.
symbol of these
I
temples.
I don't know. I don't know how it's never talked about or how no one really knows about it, but I know that it's shared in the Brotherhood as a common knowledge with like the Knights Templar and the high ranking Masons. They know all about it, and I'll be making more videos about, because it's one thing to show all the stuff that's in the temples, but it's also in Hollywood movies and it's also in the government. And
Yeah,
it's
I know. But see what you're saying about how these ancient temples, right? We've got more modern day, religions that are worshipped by millions, billions of people. Christianity, for example, is, represented by the symbol of the cross, and incidentally, a flat 2D cross is 6 squares, geometrically made of six
well,
squares,
let me
folded
just
together becomes a
let me
cube.
say something. Let me say something about the cross. If you ever see those crosses with the circle where the cross is,
You mean the Celtic cross?
yeah. So a certain time of year, there is a time when the crux constellation lines up with the sun, and so and it has something to do, the equinox, the solar equinox. I can't remember what it is. I feel like I can't remember exactly what it's called, but there's a time of the year where the crux constellation, which is like a cross, it's just 4 stars that look like a cross. There's a certain time when they line up, and it lines up with like certain events and holidays and stuff like that throughout the year. So um, if people, maybe these religions weren't even really about what people think with like a God and a Jesus and all this stuff. More than likely, it has to do with something got to do with the sun and the stars and stuff like that, and they've just kind of put it into the architecture, and then people just twist and dilute it over the years. Like how the Bible gets rewritten so many times, and how ideologies change about what that means, what this means, you know. But
Right,
more
so
than likely, that's where that idea comes from. It's the crux constellation and the sun lining up. And
well, it's a symbol that has been, as you know, like you've got the Gnostic cross, the idea of symbols and being created around a geometric shape. I mean, again, just think about that. A cross, when when a cross is unfolded, it becomes, you know, a cube.
oh,
Sorry, but
like, yeah, like a box, how it unfolds a box and you can fold it back into a.
and then if you think about these symbols, that are used by corporations today. If you think about the logo of BlackRock, which is the largest asset management corporation on earth, with a greater value than the EU, their symbol is a cube, a black cube, or Nvidia. Their symbol is a black cube, a cube of an eye. They're the largest computing chip manufacturer on earth. And if you want to get religious, if you look at the symbol of Israel in Judaism, a hexagonal star, which we associate with, Saturn historically. But apart from the
I
fact,
wonder why.
what? What did you say?
I said, oh, I wonder why. You know what I mean?
But apart from the fact that all these, symbols historically and mythologically have been associated with Saturn, I think they also communicate with us on that subconscious level. And as you were alluding to earlier, with the 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 advertising with the symbol of McDonald's that reminds you of that restaurant change, and that is the power of hypnosis. That through repetition, continued repetition, suggestions, our minds now associate that symbol with a restaurant chain, magnetizing us to these symbols. And again, there was a famous, a sociologist, George Herbert Mead, who used to call that symbolic interactionism, that society in reality interacts with us using symbols.
I just want I'm just wondering what you think about, the three doors that I've been talking about, right?
You are referencing that in your videos.
Yeah. Don't you find it a little strange how a place like the Sun Gate in Bolivia, which some guys there who have done lots and lots of investigations with different testings of the soil and all kinds of different stuff, and they think that it might go as far back as 17,000 years. The Pumapumku, I think it is. I don't know if I got that right. It's where the Sun Gate is in Bolivia. There's so many of them, I get them mixed up sometimes. But to see that 3-door symbol on something that might possibly be 17,000 years old, it's going to make you wonder how on the other side of the globe, when you go to places like Angkor Wat in Cambodia, you have the exact same symbol.
Mm-hmm.
That's a little strange. Well, literally everywhere. I mean, the fact that no one really notices it, it's in all modern cathedrals. Like anybody can see, there's always the big door in the middle with the other.
Yeah, you're right there. Yeah.
Almost every cathedral you look at.
Yeah. So you've got that cross-cultural connection that dates back.
I think that's mostly because of the Knights Templar, who they were really involved with building those cathedrals and putting out the plans for like the Catholic Church and whatnot, when they made peace with them. And there's a time when they had rough times with certain organizations, and they were trying to get rid of them. But at one point, Masons, Knights Templar, they were involved with making these things, and they spent a lot of time traveling around the world, like all over the place, and it was important for them to incorporate what they saw into those structures. But I just find it extremely strange how you have some, like, it's a super, like, if you're familiar with the symbol and you see it and you can understand the power behind it, it's got some meaning to it. Like, it's almost like when you line up your eyes and you come down where your bridge of your nose is and where your third eye matches. It's almost like it could mean,
right,
like, there's so many different things that it could mean, but the fact that you see it everywhere is completely insane. And also fact that,
do you see what you're referencing there? How it's also in churches, chapels with 3 doors. Yeah, I want to bring this more to the modern day if I can, but I would like to include someone that's been waiting on the while to get their views on this, because I want to get into how these symbolism, especially the symbolism of Saturn, I've been aware of it on a subconscious level for most of my life, but it wasn't until recently that I really got into it, and it is so prevalent. So I'd like to bring in Tucker into the conversation. Hi, Tucker. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. I have been listening to most of the things you were saying there about hypnotism and the actual the meanings behind why these things are being placed in your head. And I would like to say one thing though, right? Saturn itself, as you were talking about, right? It means so many things in different cultures. You could be sat there for weeks trying to decipher through all the information. But what would you say yourself? What's the one thing that you love when you hear Saturn? For me,
right? I think you're alluding to, if I'm not wrong, Satan.
No, see that I was thinking the day of the week.
Saturday, yes.
Yes. Now, everyone looks forward to Saturday. Why does everyone look forward to Saturday? Because it's the day you can let your hair down. It's the day you can invite Satan in. It's the day that it's the day, but it's the longest day from God, as they would call sun, like you were saying before. The symbolism of God being the sun, the Celtic cross having that symbol there is actually.
It was also, Saturday was also known by the Canaanites and Hebrews as the Sabbath, which is another association between Saturn worship and
harvest. Really, the Sabbath in it is harvest. That's what the Greeks and the Romans used to see Saturn as. It was the time where Saturn would come in the sky would be harvest.
Hey Tucker, what do you think about that hexagonal shape on the North Pole?
Well, there's actually several round about the world, but yeah,
it's pretty crazy, right? It's weird. It's strange.
It's been hidden for so long too, and they've known about it. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Right. Before we expand on Saturn and Tucker, I know you personally, so I know you're well aware of Saturnian symbolism, certain Saturnian symbolism. But as I said, the reason I'm doing this episode is I've got a friend and she has an obsession with Saturnian symbolism and the occult, and she asked me to do this. And so that got me going down the rabbit hole. And I'm going to get into the meaning of Saturnian symbolism later. But in terms of how I've noticed it being prevalent in the media, from corporate logos to films and movies, and I'm just going to play a clip of a stereotypical symbol associated with Saturn from a very famous film, right? So just give me,
because I won't be able to hear your clip. I haven't been able to hear any of them.
well, it's only 1 minute, so hopefully you'll be able to see it, but hopefully you'll be able to hear it. Right, well, that was the classic scene from 2001, A Space Odyssey, and you see the monolith in that scene. And the thing is about the monolith, it doesn't teach in that film. Instead, it triggers. It's a symbol that represents transition from chaos to order, just like Saturn does. And mythology, Saturn is the force, the god of order, of containment and structure. And it's not just seen in the film 2001. In Star Trek, for example, if we've got any Star Trek, fans, there's a cybernetic race called the Borg that exist contained within the confines of a black cube. And the Borg are a collective consciousness, but not only are contained by the cube, but they have lost their contact with the natural universe, assimilated into an artificial structure. And then you could think of Hellraiser, and you've got the puzzle box, another cube. Again, Hellraiser, the cube verse, represents transition. So with this whole modern symbolism, from the iconography that exists in films to modern culture from corporations, what do you think about its representation in modernity? Back to you, Hydro, and then Tosh, if you could expand on it.
I knew you were going to play that video. As soon as it popped up, I started laughing.
Classic scene.
Okay, what are my thoughts on what, sorry?
From the symbolism, the Saturnian symbolism found that present in modern culture, from the iconography of corporations to film. What have you got any thoughts on that? Why is it so prevalent? You were talking about the prevalence of the three doors in cathedrals and churches, etc., and temples. That's another example of symbolism that is prevalent today and throughout centuries.
Well, the three doors, for an example, man, that's just,
But the black cube is another example. The cube,
yeah. The fact that at the Mecca, that's a little strange, right? I mean, if you look into it, it's hard to figure out what's going on there. It's very strange because if you look at what's going on with Saturn, it's circling around, and it's kind of weird how you got the cube and they circle around that way.
yeah.
It's strange. It's weird.
And it's another Abrahamic religion, and we were talking about how, the Hebrews also worshipped Saturn, and they referred to Saturn as El, and they worshipped Saturn on Saturday, which they referred to as the Shabbat. So you have all these associations between the Abrahamic religions and Saturn. And what about you, Tucker? Because I know you've got an interest in science fiction from like Star Trek and.
I mean, I was going to say the Arabic word for Saturn, like the deity is Zuhal, which it basically means the one who's far away, the alien, Like I remember reading like the kind of Hermetic, it's like very familiar with it. But basically the concept of distance or being alien is borrowed from like Greek thought, it's like definitely stated that Zuhul was like the Arabic of the Arabic name for Saturn, long before the Arabs or the Jews actually became like familiar with the Greek kind of learnings. They knew, obviously, like the Assyrians were the first people to actually see Saturn. They were the first people to actually notice it.
I thought it was Phoenicians, but you're saying it's Syrians.
Syrians in 700 BC.
Hey,
it was definitely them. Who did you say it was?
Was that Hydro?
Like all these symbols, I think that there are certain things in nature, like just sacred geometrical patterns that you find when you look at things under the microscope. Just the way that molecules and atoms and whatnot line up and the fractal shapes that they make. I think if you're gonna bring a symbol to a physical thing to see, whether it's on a wall or in a structure, there are certain things that have actual meaning to it that has to do with the function of reality in the universe itself and consciousness and life, right? But then there are things that are like abstract to that, where it's like complete human ideology or just made up things that humans can give their ideas to. But if you were to look at like the flower of life, the seed of life, and just stuff like that, like you can see like, okay, that looks like a flower or whatever, but really the true meaning and understanding behind it has to do with the functions of reality and the structure of quantum physics or whatever, if you want to put it that way, right? But there's two different facts behind. You know what I mean?
But Hydro, where do you think that's going in terms of the black cube? You were talking about there's a function to these symbols. Why is there such a representation with the similar iconography of the black cube or the hexagon? What function do you think the black cube serves?
So that religion at the Mecca, they have things that talk about Saturn, right? Like the right? So
Zuhal, that's what they call it. Yeah.
Right. So it makes perfect sense to where maybe somebody had, like I was saying, like maybe somebody had a telescope a few thousand years ago or something like that, and they saw the way Saturn was working, and they thought maybe if we replicate that on the ground, we can harness the energy of a big, huge godlike planet thing. I don't know. Like, it's really weird because they're doing what Saturn is doing. They circle around it like it's you know what I mean? Like it's a weird coincidence is going on there.
Saturn has the most.
I don't know.
Tucker, what was that you were saying?
I was saying Saturn does have the most pull between all the planets.
The most gravitational pull, yeah.
like not just that though, the way that it actually works and weaves in between the planets, it's almost as if it is orchestrating the planets to go that certain way. If Saturn were up there, we would all be fucked pretty much, because it soaks up so much of is it the Kuiper belt? Is that what it's called? The belt that lives between the solar system.
All that debris.
What's it called? Is it the Kuiper belt? Is that right?
I'm not certain of
the belt of asteroids, basically. That's
all the space rocks that circle around.
Yeah, it soaks up so much of that. But it's also like, obviously, Saturn itself gets so much symbolism, and you know, it's like the opposite of Jupiter. You know, it's like Jupiter's like the god of expansion, and Saturn's the god of contraction,
containment.
Yeah, containment is probably the better word.
And structure, and that's why also Saturn is associated with law and order often.
You know, it's weird how Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun, and then at its north pole it has 6 side.
You've got all these coincidences, these synchronicities in terms of associations and the correspondences associated with the planet, which is what astrology is often about.
So that's where you get your 666.
Perhaps, but I did say I don't want to associate so much with Satanism, but I did have this discussion with someone else recently who did.
They don't really have words for Satan in the Quran, you know.
But here's the thing.
You're going to get.
I'm going to say something quite controversial to a lot of people, right? So historically, like the land of Israel, as we know, it was called Canaan before it was Israel, which is a historical fact. And the Canaanites were a Semitic people who believed their chief god was named El, and as we know, the modern Jews, they worship a being called the Elohim. So to me, when I hear that, and I hear all the correspondences and the similarities between the word El and the say the patriarch of Israel was Jacob, who was given the name Israel by Gabriel, the archangel Gabriel. Again, El with the archangel's name. But the very fact that the name of Israel has El again at the end, and it really gets into the notion that do the Jews or the Hebrews worship Saturn?
Well, wait, hang on a second. If you think about it, because it's a cube, it's got 6 sides, right?
Yeah.
There's another weird one. But also, it's like, if you look at Platonic, what is it called? Platonic solids, you got different shapes.
Yeah, I've got a bag of dice that are all Platonic shapes. You know, it's like 7 different shapes.
But there's all types. There's different cultures that associate the cube being like multifaceted, and it symbolizes stability, permanence, truth, and earthly grounding. So it's probably a combination of all those things.
Hydro, it was you who put me on to someone not that long ago, someone called Jordan Maxwell. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And here, he asked me, had I heard of Jordan Maxwell? And I actually was familiar with him, but the name left me. Now, here's a short clip of Jordan Maxwell explaining the role of Saturn in the world.
Saturn was referred to as I said, the Lord of the Rings. Women were told in ancient Israel to listen to their god, so they wore an ear ring. Men were to get married before their god, so they wore a wedding ring. Consequently, the kings were to get to be crowned before their god Saturn, so they wore the round corona, the ring, Lord of the Rings. Consequently, black was the color associated with the planet Saturn. We have different planets and different colors associated with the different planets coming from the ancient world, but black was the color associated with the planet Saturn. So therefore all the priests would wear black robes, just as Catholic priests wear black robes, judges wear black robes, rabbis wear black robes. Young people graduating from university and college, they come out wearing a black robe. Black robes. Somebody better go back and do your homework. You know what a black robe represents and why judges wear black robes? And consequently, when you graduate from university, it's a Saturnalian event. Saturn is the great teacher, the inhibitor. Incidentally, Saturn was referred to as the inhibitor, one who holds you back and teaches you a lesson. So he holds you back and inhibits you and inhibits your movement. He arrests your movement. So consequently, the Hebrews said, since he's always inhibiting you, and since we go to Tepel on Saturn's day, why don't we just do nothing on Saturday? And that's why today there's something called a Sabbath, in which you do nothing from Friday sundown to Saturday sundown. Is called Sabbath. But Sabbath is actually based on a Phoenician word, Shabbat.
I hope you could hear that, Tucker.
No.
No, you know what? He was saying a lot of things you were mentioning earlier. Okay, Hydro, could you expand on what you think what Maxwell was alluding to there?
So I'm just speaking to one of your viewers here. Change times. I don't mean to be so vague on religion.
Times, by the way, is Jordan, Tucker.
Okay. I don't mean to be so vague, but I just don't have enough time to get into it. But if you watch some of Jordan Maxwell's stuff, got to do with the different religions, because you have to watch a lot of it to really understand, like, just about like the idea of the sun and the cross and all that stuff. It'll make perfect sense. He's amazing. Like, he really is. If you watch all his stuff, there's a channel dedicated. He's dead now. He died in 2020, I think, 2019. But there's a channel dedicated to him, and it's like the official channel. It's probably run by his family or something. But yeah, man, take a lot of looks into like, he talks about a little bit of everything, honestly. Like the way government's structured, religion, secret societies, like even consciousness, all kinds of stuff. And I'm happy that you're starting to, like, you know, see like, oh, this guy's got something. He really does, man.
Yeah,
he knows a lot.
He sounds quite informed, especially with in terms of.
He's had a lot of friends in Hollywood and a lot of friends in government and military and stuff.
Yeah,
he's got himself around. It sucks that he's not here anymore, you know.
Mm-hmm. But the thing is, like, with respect to occult ceremonies, the black cube is often used again as an altar. But you know, Saturn's influence, as I was saying, is so pervasive that we no longer require rituals or incense or incantations to worship Saturn, just like we did back in the day, or centuries, thousands of years ago. Civilization itself now is an homage to Saturn. If you look at the structure of our whole society, it's regimented and organized, which is a homage itself to Saturn. You know, if you think about how we submit to order, whether it's governmental order, or corporate order, and the very appearance of how our culture is structured. You know, we live in houses that are square, cube-shaped. We go to work in big monolith-shaped, you know, rectangle cubes. Again, it's like, you know, so prevalent.
I think a lot of people, like, we're just born into stuff too, right? And that's the thing. Like, if you think about how easily we can be wiped out by an asteroid or a comet or a super volcano, and the whole world can go to shit in like 100 years and society can collapse. But also, you can start a brand new civilization with all brand new kids, with all brand new systems, just as easily. Like, we can have something brand new started just as easy as something can be destroyed.
For that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm saying,
and we're born into it. Like, people are born into the religion. They're kind of forced into it. We're forced into these elementary schools. We're forced into all this stuff. You
know, you have to make up stories to make sure the kids don't do stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
us being the kids. You know, how many times has our society probably been wiped out, or race been wiped out, or
That's why people have amnesia about the past, because so much shit has happened, you know, especially with comets, man. It really wipes the slate clean. You know, that's why we're like, who built all these temples and stuff? What's going on here?
Well, again, you've got that connection with the Unger Dryas period, where we believe that period, you know, caused basically, as you were referring to there, the slate to be wiped clean. The civilizations that were extant around that period in history are no
And
longer
so,
with us, but their
this is-
technology survived. I think that's a theory you kind of subscribe to.
This society today is kind of like a 10,000 year result of trauma, because just the amount of shit that you would go through after some crazy cataclysm like that, especially if it goes on for 1,200 years, on and off, different things, earthquakes, volcanoes, comets, tsunamis, and then after all that shit, whoever survived, we're the great grandchildren of those people. But just imagine how long it would have taken just for us to be able to start doing what we're doing now again. You know, like they could have gotten to this point many times, but every 10,000 years or so, something happens. You know what I mean? And also too, like I said before, like New York would be completely gone in a few thousand years. Like especially if you're going on 10,000 years, there's not really going to be anything left. Mount Rushmore and stuff like that might kind of be there, but it's hard to say, right? Like there might be a few things that are left to signify it, but all the technology and all the stuff and all the buildings after 30, 40,000 years, it would be gone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and we were having a discussion about, if you look at a lot of ancient cultures, you find a shared blood haplogroup. Like if you look at Iran or Russia or India, especially northern India, they have the same or dominant blood haplogroup. And you know, as we know, like the name of Iran is derived from the Aryans, and it was once referred to as Aryana Vasia, which was known as the land of the Aryans, who were apparently a nomadic culture that you know, conquered much of Eurasia. So we do know that there has been a lost history, a history maybe lost to destruction or a cataclysm, that maybe climate change.
Who knows? It could have just been a plague that wiped those people out. It could be, you know, a natural disaster. It could be war. You know, war's a big thing, especially over the generations. You know, how many civilizations have been wiped out, and everything they've ever known and learned, and all the technology just gone in.
Well, one thing that definitely survives is like myths and legends, and also the three doors for some reason has survived, and I think it's really important. It's a lot to get into and it's a lot to cover, and I know it might just seem stupid now, but as more people start to realize what I'm talking about, it'll make more sense. But I think it's really significant. There's something to it, man. It's really strange.
We've got the black cube and the three doors. If we find a black cube with three doors, we've nail on the head. But see what you were earlier talking about disease being responsible for, you know, civilizations potentially being wiped out. If you look at the Mongols, and when they sieged, I think it was the Crimeans, they brought the plague with them. That's how the plague got into Europe and then wiped out something like 1/3 of the population of Europe. So that's evidence about how disease or viruses can travel.
I also think too that there are diseases that people would make even a long time ago. People don't think that people did that a long time ago, but I don't think it would take, like, it wouldn't take much to understand if you take some shit, some mold, and some other nasty poisons, you mix them together and you throw that out to somebody, it's gonna fuck people up. And I think
I've got all those things on my windowsill right now. Not even kidding.
But people were really filthy at certain times. It could be a combination of both things, because I mean they definitely did stuff like that to the natives.
Yeah, and
I mean,
you know,
they just wanted to give them a cuddle, you know, and they couldn't. I mean, we struggle, cuddle. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I, who was it who said, cleanliness is next to godliness? Was that the Smashing Pumpkins?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you know what? I think I'm going to wrap this one up, guys, because it's I've sort of,
I need to get going too. So
yeah, I think it's just past the 1 hour mark. But it's been a pleasure speaking to you, Hydro. It's the first time we've collaborated on something, and
man.
I know you weren't really prepared for the subject matter, so it was good having you on and your feedback. Tucker, it was good having you on for the first time too.
Yeah.
And trying
good talking to both you guys.
Yeah. It's been Hydro.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you.
I wouldn't mind doing it again sometime, man.
Yeah, we'll need to do it again soon. Right.
Oh yeah.
So I'll catch you later.
All right. See you, man.
Later.
Okay, Tucker, I'll catch you later. And thank you for tuning in and watching. I hope you learned and learned something from it. If you enjoyed and feel generous, don't forget you can contribute and donate at buymeacoffee.com/Caledonian Elixir. And we have an episode going out in a few days on the recent events regarding the drone incursion, the alleged drone incursion by Russia into Poland and the Charlie Kirk assassination. So stay tuned for that. And again, I will see you soon.
Pressed platinum, slip strips and bars. If you ever find some, you can lose it in quarks. Get a Ractogino, spin the double wheel. Order a black hole, just depends how you feel. Yeah, it just depends how you feel. Gold pressed platinum, you know it's a gas. Mom vomits it up into a tiny little glass. Liquid platinum, more you amass. Better than bronze, cobalt, silver, nickel or brass. Silver, nickel or brass. Living in a high society, living on station. Part of the alliance, the United Federation. Picking up the pieces from the Cardi occupation. You could be a Klingon with a genetic mutation, a symbiont Andorian, a tortured Irish curly-haired Caucasian. Waiting on the holosuite, playing a game of space dolls. Really matters not, everyone is welcome in quarks. Yes, everyone is welcome in quarks. Everyone is welcome in quarks. Gold pressed platinum, you can buy your own moon. Drinks with little hats in them, come back soon. Spin your heart on dough, it comes from dying stars.